Welcome to the African Weekly Roundup, a weekly program every Sunday here on HORUFADHI Media where I discuss the latest news and events across the African continent. I'm Sudan Mohammed, your host and producer here on HORUFADHI Media. We hope you find this program very informative. Please like, share, and for similar content, do subscribe to HORUFADHI Media. Also, do subscribe to HORUFADHI Media Group's second channel, known as HORUFADHI TV, where you can find exclusive programs such as Behind the Scenes and Mahahi Saleh, among others. And last but not least, do follow myself, Sudan Mohammed, Suleiman Hashi, Yasin Abdi, and the wider HORUFADHI Media team on our social media platforms that should appear on the screen any moment. Let's get straight into the news and over to East Africa, where the presidents of Somalia and Kenya signed a range of deals, including one to restart the importation of mira or qad, a stimulant drug banned across parts of the world. The country's foreign ministers have announced in a sign of improving diplomatic relations between the two countries. Somalia's President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud inked deals with his counterpart President Uhuru Kenyatta in Nairobi during his first official trip to Kenya's capital since winning the Somali presidency in May of this year. The presidents also agreed to restart flights by Kenya's national carrier, Kenya Airways, to Mogadishu, ease some visa restrictions and reopen the border, the statement continued. However, Somalia's and Kenya's relationship has been turbulent to say the least because of a dispute over the ownership of potential offshore oil and gas deposits in the southern Somali coast. The countries took the dispute to the International Court of Justice, in which the majority of the waters was legally classified as Somali waters. However, the ruling was rejected by Kenya, and Kenya said that it did not recognize the findings in that decision. Additionally, Somalia severed diplomatic relations with Kenya in December 2020, accusing it of meddling in its internal affairs. It also expelled Nairobi's ambassador, recalled its own envoy, alleging interference in the electoral process in Jubaland, in which President Ahmed Islam Mdobe was re-elected in 2019, a region that borders Kenya and is one of Somalia's 5 semi-autonomous states in its federal republic. In 2019, similarly, Kenya recalled its ambassador from Mogadishu after Somalia decided to auction a disputed oil and gas exploration block within its sea, ties were restored only a few months later. Now, the current newly elected president of Somalia, Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, previously served as president between 2012 and 2017, in which he had warm relations with the currently outgoing Kenyan president, Uhuru Kenyatta. Staying in the region, over to Sudan, where the political and security situation in the country continues to deteriorate. The Sudanese authorities have declared an overnight curfew in 2 towns in the southeastern Blue Nile state close to the border with Ethiopia after several days of tribal clashes. Dozens of families are fleeing the region, where continued clashes between 2 tribes have killed at least 31 people, according to the State Security Committee and other officials. And at least 39 others have been wounded, and dozens of shops were torched in a number of towns since the violence broke out on Monday over a land dispute between the Berti and the Hausa tribes. The clashes continued into Saturday afternoon, despite the deployment of more troops in the region, according to the Sudan's Doctors Committee, an organization which tracks violence across the country. Now, the organization also said more were injured and were brought to hospitals on Saturday amid a shortage of emergency and life-saving medicine in the province. The Sudan's Doctors Committee called on authorities in the capital, Khartoum, to help evacuate injured people for advanced treatment. Now, the Blue Nile Governor Ahmed Al-Umda issued an order on Friday prohibiting any gatherings or marches for 1 month and imposed a curfew on that Saturday. The local government deployed the military and a paramilitary group known as Rapid Support Forces, or RSF, in an attempt to bring stability in the region. And the worsening security situation comes just after last week, when Sudan's coup leader Abdel Fattah al-Burhan dismissed the last civilian members of his ruling body as part of a power shift to a new transitional government. Sudan's main civilian alliance, the Forces for Freedom and Change, or FFC, have labelled Burhan's latest move a giant ruse and a tactical retreat. They also called for a continued public pressure on the government as protests continue. Now, over to the other side of the continent in West Africa, where the political and security crisis in Mali deepens. Now, the Mali government has suspended all new rotations of the United Nations peacekeeping mission, including those already scheduled for, and I quote, national security reasons, according to the Foreign Ministry. The suspension will last until a meeting is held to facilitate the coordination and regulation of the rotation of contingents, said the Foreign Ministry. The announcement came after the Malian authorities arrested 49 Ivorian soldiers it later described as mercenaries intent on toppling the country's military-led government. Now, the country of Ivory Coast said the soldiers were so-called National Support Elements, or NSE, a UN procedure allowing contingents of peacekeeping missions to call on outside contractors for logistical duties. The soldiers, who were arrested after arriving at the Bamako airport aboard a special flight, comprising the fifth rotation under this scheme, according to the Ivory Coast government. Now, the Malian government gave no date for the proposed meeting on the rotations. However, it assured the UN mission that Mali would, and I quote, work diligently to create conditions conducive to lifting of this suspension of rotation, which is an essential step in enabling the deployed contingents to ensure the proper implementation of the UN mission's mandates, said the Malian government. Egypt told the United Nations it would temporarily suspend the activities of its contingent in a Mali peacekeeping mission, citing increased attacks on its peacekeepers who escort convoys supplying UN bases, a UN spokesman said on Friday. Now, as the political crisis worsens, the security situation in the country also deepens as 6 people were killed, including 2 police officers, in a rare attack near the Mali capital, Bamako, the security ministry said. Attacks are rarely seen in the south of the country, including the capital, as most of the fighting is taking place in the central and the northern regions of the country. The landlocked country is in the heart of the Sahel and is facing continued political and security crisis, particularly in its volatile regions where an armed uprising has raged since 2012. On Thursday night, about 70 kilometers from the capital, an attack took place at the checkpoint of Zintigla on the road to the central city of Sigu, the security minister said on Friday evening. The attack was carried out by as yet unidentified armed individuals, leaving 3 individuals, civilians, and 3 law enforcement officers dead and wounding 2 others, said the ministry. A police station on the same route was ambushed by unidentified armed individuals on June 24th, killing 1 officer, authorities further elaborated. Mali is one of the most politically unstable countries in Africa, having seen 2 coups since 2020. Colonels and army officials, angry at the government's handling of the long-running violence, seized power in August 2020 and then carried out another coup in May the following year in 2021. The military government in Bamako has turned towards Russia, away from France and Western powers, in an attempt to prevent fighters from spreading in the center of the country to neighboring Burkina Faso and Niger. The friction caused by Bamako's new ties with Russia, as well as the military's continued delays in restoring civilian rule, has caused a direct falling out between Mali and France, which resulted in Mali demanding France to remove its soldiers from its country. Now, staying in West Africa, the Togolese army has admitted to killing 7 children on July 10th in a blast in the village of Margaba in the Savannah region near the border with Burkina Faso. In a statement issued on Thursday, the military revealed that youngsters aged between 14 and 18 were hit by air raids at dawn after they were mistaken for what they say were groups of jihadis who entered the country on the basis of intelligence gathering. The admission comes to light after an investigation launched following the deaths of 7 children killed as they were returning home late night from celebrations of the Muslim holiday of Eid al-Adha. 2 others also were wounded. Since June 13th, the Savannah region has been under a state of emergency as part of the president's administration's effort to overcome activity of armed groups spilling over from Burkina Faso, the epicenter of the conflict in the Sahel. In May, 8 soldiers were killed and 13 others were wounded at a security outpost in the locality near the Savannah region by unknown gunmen. Similarly, last November, security forces repelled a similar attack by unidentified armed men that the government believed came from Burkina Faso. Now, the popular Togolese human rights activist Federa Namburima was scathing in her rebuttal of the government's admission, calling the president a bloody dictator who, and I quote, executes children. Now, down to southern Africa, where mass shootings are on the rise in the country of South Africa. Police there are on the hunt for suspects after 9 people were killed in separate shooting incidents in 2 provinces in the country on Saturday night, according to the law enforcement in the country. The latest slew of shootings comes on the heels of an uptick in violence in a country with one of the world's highest murder rates. 4 people were shot and 2 more were injured in an informal settlement in the southern suburb of Johannesburg. The preliminary investigation suggests that a group of men was playing dice in a street corner approximately at 7:30 p.m. local time on a Saturday when they were attacked by unknown assailants who shot at them, the authorities said in a statement. 4 people were certified dead on the scene on Saturday, while 2 were taken to the nearest medical care center after sustaining gunshots, the police said in a statement. The regional police commissioner Elias Mawala described the crime scene as, and I quote, horrific. In a separate incident, also in the same settlement, a 36-year-old man who appeared to have been robbed of his belongings, including a mobile phone and a bicycle, was found shot dead, the police added. Police also said the motives for these shootings cannot be confirmed at this current stage of the investigation. Meanwhile, in the Western Cape province, police have launched an investigation into the circumstances of a triple murder on Saturday in a local township. A fourth murder occurred the same night. However, the police have said this is unrelated, according to Colonel Andre Trout of the Western Cape Police, when he told reporters earlier on Friday. Now, on Friday, similarly, 8 suspects linked to the random separate shootings and robbery incidents of 6 people the previous night on a Thursday at the Alexandria Township in Johannesburg were arrested by officials. Now, just last week, the African Weekly Roundup here on HORUFADHI Media reported of a mass shooting at the tavern in a Johannesburg township, which killed 14 people and left 3 others critically injured. The situation in South Africa in terms of gun violence continues to deteriorate. And finally, over to Guinea, where the military junta appointed an acting prime minister while the incumbent prime minister was absent, state television said on late Saturday. The announcement did not explain why the prime minister was taking a leave of absence or how long he would be absent for. Commerce and Industry Minister Bernard Gemou has been appointed acting prime minister during the absence of Prime Minister Mohamed, it said. The former prime minister, a former civil servant and an expert in agricultural finance, was appointed prime minister last October to preside over a promised transition back to democratic rule following a coup last year. Now, West Africa's main political and economic bloc, ECOWAS or ECOWAS, has rejected a 3-year transition to elections proposed by Guinea's junta, which has been asked to propose a new timeline by the end of July or face economic sanctions from the group. Now, the Prime Minister has sought to foster dialogue about the transition between Guinea's main political parties and civil society leaders, but talks have been marred by boycotts. That's all the top stories this week. Tune in next week for another weekly update of events across the African continent.